I'd like to welcome to the stage to talk about two mistakes that you're making with in-app purchases and how to fix them. It's Athena Peters from Mobile Game Doctor, so come on up.
Folks, thanks for coming in to talk. A little bit about myself. So my name is Athena Z. Peters. I am a business developer and product management consultant and strategist for Mobile Game Doctor. Mobile Game Doctor has been around for about 20 years. It was established by a couple of folks who've been in free-to-play games for lots and lots of time. Over those 20 years, we've helped hundreds of companies improve their mobile games, as well as any free-to-play game. So it's not necessarily just mobile, even though that's what it is in our title. We can help you out with your PC and console games as well, as long as they're in a free-to-play space. A little bit about myself. I've been in the games industry also for over 20 years. And I moved into the free-to-play space when I started working at Warner Brothers. I was the executive producer on Dungeons & Dragons Online and Lord of the Rings Online when they were moved into free-to-play products. And then I helped launch Warner Brothers Games' first couple of mobile games, Batman Arkham Underworld and Game of Thrones Conquest. And now I've been with Mobile Game Doctor about 3 years. And I have helped a number of clients in improving their product management on multiple game titles over the years. So that's. Then I'm going to click this, maybe. Am I pressing the right button? Oh, the big one, this one. All right, so. One of the things that we see often with our clients making mistakes with IAP, especially if they're moving from a ads-based revenue and trying IAP for the first time, but even those who have been doing IAP, aka in-app purchases, in case you don't know that phrase, is number one, an iteration rate. So folks are just not iterating fast enough, making changes fast enough. That is very important when you're talking about doing IAP. And secondly, they don't know their customer, and they're not getting to know their customer. So we're going to dive into a little bit of details here. And the goal here is to try to get your game up into this top grossing list. All of these games here know all there is to know about iteration and knowing their customers, and that's how they get to the top of the charts. And we want to make sure that you and all of our clients do the same thing. So, iteration, the basis. Try more and try it faster. The top 10 grossing games on that list up there that we just saw are doing updates weekly, if not faster. They are putting out a new build constantly. This is absolutely necessary because you want to test everything that you put out, right? You want to constantly be verifying that any changes that you make to your game are things that your players are going to get excited about. Right? And it's also going to bring them back in. It's giving them new options. You want to constantly be expanding your store because if they really love your game and they love the things that you're building for them, the last thing that you want them to do is run out of things to give you money for, right? So key things being here, for one, A/B test everything. If you are not A/B testing the changes in your game, that is one of the first things you should do. And we're talking about like the simplest of changes. So up here, I have an example of Candy Crush testing out a new UX. And as you can note up here, the simple change of having a white background versus a black background on their heading up there, that is something that they A/B tested, right? So they built it, they sent both versions out to a segment of their audience, and then they checked the numbers that came back from that, right? And then they saw, like, did that increase their, return rate of their customers? Did it decrease the amount of people who are dropping out? Did it increase revenue, right? It can, you never know, right? But even simple changes like that. But for every thing that you think about changing in your game, everything that you might want to add in, price changes, etc. All of this stuff should be A/B tested. So put it out, put 2 different versions out, see what data comes back from that, check what numbers it's moving, and then make the best decision from there, and then roll that out to your audience, and then test something else. But you should never be adding anything into your game that you haven't checked. This gets supported by your weekly releases, right? So that's part of it. You're sending out a new update all the time with these little changes, and then you're testing them, and then you're putting out a build that confirms that one change, and then you're starting in another one. And the most important part of this is that you need to collect and review that data. It doesn't help to A/B test things if you're not checking the numbers that come back, right? So you should know why you're testing something, right? So if I've got changes to my UI or my UX, there's a reason why I changed that. Usually it's about are players not completing a level for some reason, right? Or am I seeing more dropping out of the game than I wanted to? My retention numbers aren't as strong, or maybe even maybe it's about my monetization numbers. But first you want to know what exactly that change is, what needle is that change supposed to make for you, right? Know what that is so that when you run the test, you have that check. But then you also want to check your other data. So important things are, is your conversion rate going up or down after you make that change? Because sometimes, right, you're going to have a knockdown effect from the change that you made that might not be related specifically in the thing you were aiming for, but has another effect. So we always want to make sure that we're not making, even if we're making a change to increase our retention, we want to make sure that we didn't increase our retention, but at the same time reduce our revenue per user, right? So we want to make sure that we're also keeping track of those numbers while we're testing. And then that way you can compare those things and then decide, was this a good move or not, revert the changes if it was a bad idea, and move forward with the one that worked. But that only works if you have that data, so make sure you're checking that data. Yeah, and that was a lot of the thing that I'm covering there, right? So it's useless if you're not tracking it. Check everything. Color changes, quests, pricing, all of it. You can test all of it and fine-tune every little bit. The next big thing that we're seeing is people not knowing their customer. And do you really know them? So when you're working on just ad revenue, what we see is a lot of people focus in on, I just want as many downloads as I can possibly get, because I just want to get people in my game and then watching ads, and then I get paid through ads. Well, when you decide that ad revenue is no longer beneficial to you because of all the data changes out there in the world, and you need to switch into IAP, it's no longer good enough just to get people to download. You need to know who those people are and what they enjoy and what they like, because now they need to be real people to you because you're selling a specific thing to them, right? You're not just getting them to watch ads. You need to actually sell some things to them. So you need to get to know them. So, key thing, please, please, please create player personas for your game users, for your game players. Who is your target demographic, right? Don't just stop at, I'm aiming for women aged 25 to 35 who enjoy dress-up games, right? I need more detail than that. Who is she? Where does she hang out? What does she enjoy reading? When she's not playing games, what is she doing, right? All of these things tell me what types of products in my game this customer might be interested in purchasing or getting to know, or content that they're interested in, right? If I know what movies, what books, et cetera, that she reads, then I'm going to better be able to craft my game and the items that I'm selling in my game to be something that she's going to get excited about. And this doesn't just mean like one, right? You might have 5 different player personas because you can actually target multiple customers with different IAPs, which is the great thing about IAPs. And also being able to A/B test. You can actually segment out your group where you're selling some things to some people and other things to other people. And the more you get to know your customers and who's coming in, the better you're going to be able to do that, and the better you're going to be able to cater specifically to their needs and their wants. Key to this, another little tidbit that we've got from the top grossing games is 8 out of 10 of those top grossing games are collecting an email within the first-time user experience. So that's how you get to know your customer. You need their email, or better yet, if you can get them to sign in with Google or Facebook. I really love Facebook because Facebook will tell you what the things are that they like, their hobbies, what pages they've signed up to. You know, all of that data tells you about the personality of the people that are playing your game, and thus you're going to be able to create your game to really fit in with them. So one of the best things that you can do is attach sign-ins to your game to one of those major sign-in groups like Facebook or Google, so that then you can use Facebook and Google to get that data from them on your specific customer and get to know that customer. Another thing you can do even without those sign-ins, if you have a Discord, if you have forums, even if you don't have those things, you do have reviews. You should be reading the reviews in your app store all the time, right? What are people saying about your game? What are they saying that they like about it? What are they saying that they hate about it, right? And why? And then also, like, the biggest thing you can do even to help with your review scores is reply back to those things. Even if it's a nice thing, reply back and say, hey, thanks. Thanks for that positive score. I'm so glad you're enjoying our game. But really what you're doing is you're digging through that information to find out more about what that customer likes and dislikes, and then that tells you what things you want to adjust back and forth. Once again, collect and review that data. It's not going to do you any good if you just read it, you get it all, and then you move on for the day. Make sure that you've got spreadsheets, databases, et cetera, where you can collect that information and constantly monitor it so that as your player base preferences change, et cetera, you can also adjust to that, right? And then you can share it with your team. And you know that every time your team decides to make a new feature or aspect to the game, that you're checking back to make sure that that's something that those people who are playing your game, especially those people who are heavily monetizing in your game, are going to be excited about, right? So make sure you know them. One of the things I really like is that there are several sophisticated tool sets out there in the market that you can either work with as a third party or that you can develop within your studio that nowadays will allow you to deliver content. So, like, I think many of us are aware of the fact that we can serve up special sales and ads to a specific group. One thing that I recommend really looking into is, can you actually deliver a specific feature or a specific store item, right, to a target audience, right? So the more you get to know your customers, the more you can segment them into a group of personas, right? You could have a group of people who are like, I really, really, really love cosmetic items. Give me a new outfit every day. I will buy every single one of those outfits, right? And then you have another group of people who never buy any outfits from you, but they buy a whole lot of, like, get me through this level, power-ups. You can create your stores, different stores, to segment to those audiences, right? So create your store and set up your store where it can find that target user that really loves those cosmetic items and pull those up front and center, right? So immediately they go into the store, they see those things that get them excited, and they're purchasing those things. then, don't worry about the power-ups because they don't buy those power-ups. But if you've got the people who really like the power-ups, you can present them a different store view, and then all of a sudden they're getting something different. So these tool sets are going to be very similar to your A/B testing tool sets, right? Where you just segment your audience, you present certain things, and being able to develop that means that you are specifically targeting that audience, and you're going to greatly improve how much buy-through you get on your in-app purchases. So this is like one of my favorite quotes from Walt Disney, and is one of the things that I most love about the mobile games industry and why I love this platform. Is the way to get started is to quit talking about it and just begin doing. That is like the best advice that I have to give anybody in mobile game development. The one thing that is wonderful about this platform is that you can quickly go out to your audience, reach them, try a thing, see if it works, and then if it doesn't, do something different. And the audience is forgiving of that. It's not like PC or console where you have to release it and then hope it worked out and then never change a thing again. Mobile audiences will keep coming back, especially if you have a good reach out system where you've collected their emails, or you have them, where you can send them notifications and say, hey, we've got a new thing here, you should come check it out. They'll come back and check it out. So there's no reason not to just experiment and try new things all the time to really have, to really affect your game, right? And really improve your monetization. So yes, IAP can be really intimidating, especially if you're doing more traditional game dev, but it is far more forgiving. So dive in, experiment, get to know those customers, make sure you're tracking those numbers so that you can really just improve your game as well as its revenue. And of course, if you need help, Mobile Game Doctor has a ton of experts. This is what we do all day long. We are happy to set up advising, either with audits or checking out your game and getting consultants embedded in your team for a certain amount of time. Whatever you're needing, my email is right there. The website is right there. Reach out, and we'll be happy to help you out in whatever way we can. Yeah, and I've got like maybe a minute for questions. Yeah.
Very good. Athena, that was great. That was a really great, a great summary of that. Let's have a look. We've got a question over there. So we can take this one question, then we'll have to move on. But that's perfect.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So one question about the A/B test everything. The problem I'm facing through my career is you cannot test too many things at the same time because you're diluting the base too much, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any experience with that, and what is your
Yeah, in that case, a lot of it's a matter of structure out your A/B tests, right? You can't test 10 changes at once. Right, but what you can do is roll out changes over time. Depending on what type of change it might be, you could get data back in a day or two. Sometimes it's usually better to give you about a week or so to see if there's actual monetization effects on it. But if every week you're testing something new, you're constantly releasing. So the other thing is don't try to do too much at once, right? Because if you change too many things at once, your test is going to be invalid. Because if I put out 5 different changes, I don't actually know which one of those changes affected the numbers, right? So if you're doing one change at a time and A/B testing it, then you're good, right?
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll have to move on, but Athena Peters, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm happy to send anybody this deck if you email me, so just let me know.
Perfect, thank you. Amazing.